Okay, time being 6:30, I'll call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for May 18th to order. And we do have a non-public tonight.
Yeah, we have non-public under 91A, 3C, reputation, D, sale of real estate, and E, pending litigation.
Thank you. Consideration of minutes, April 6th. Anybody have anything?
My understanding is Amy sent out revised minutes, corrected minutes to everybody. Yeah, so I don't have any questions with those.
I'll make a motion to approve them as presented.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, move to April 13th. Anything from anybody?
I'll make a motion to accept them as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
May 4th? Do we have May 4th?
No, I did not see
gonna
May
say,
4th in the packet.
I don't need it.
I would like to make a motion to table May 4th
Table.
minutes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have some temporary event permits. First one is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for Wolfeboro All Saints Episcopal Church to host the 60th Annual Summer Fair on July 16th, 2022 at 258 South Main Street. Is anybody here? No?
There we go. Sorry. My name is Carol Olson. My husband Christopher submitted some of the paperwork for the All Saints Summer Fair. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it.
Any questions from anybody? Linda?
I do. I just want to note that you probably need, your insurance certificate probably isn't updated, that you'll get it to us once it gets updated?
Correct.
Okay,
At the time of
thank
the
you.
paperwork, it was still the last year's paperwork, yes.
Okay, we'll close. Any questions from the audience? Okay, close the public hearing. Board?
Make the motion to issue a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro All Saints Episcopal Church to host the 60th Annual Summer Fair on July 16th, 2022 at 258 South Main Street in Wolfeboro, contingent upon receiving an insurance certificate 2 weeks prior to the event.
Second.
Okay, anything from the board? All those in favor? Aye. Next one is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for the Friends of Libby Museum to hold a spring fundraiser plant sale at Libby Museum on 755 North Main Street, May 27th through the 29th, 2022, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Anybody here from the museum?
Good evening, Kari Lauber. I'm on the board of the Friends and am help running the plant sale. It's to sell geraniums and perennials to support any anything that the director decides to do throughout the summer.
Questions?
I just have one for the town manager. I'm assuming that they fall under the town's insurance?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Close the public hearing. Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to issue a temporary event permit for the Friends of the Libby Museum to hold a spring fundraiser plant sale at the Libby Museum at 755 North Main Street from May 27th through 28th, 2022, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Second.
Anything from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next one is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit of the Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation to host a Granite Kid Triathlon on July 16th, 2022, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. along Clark Road and at Brewster Beach.
Christine Collins, Parks and Recreation Director. This is a 29th annual Granite Kid Triathlon. We took 2 years off, so we're bringing it back, so we're excited. It's a fun event. We have a police detail, and we're excited to bring it back.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Christine?
I just have one. Christine, is the traffic going to still be allowed to flow through Clark down the
Yes.
center, and that's why you have the police officers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Close the public hearing. Have a motion?
Move to issue a temporary event permit of the Wolfeboro Parks and Rec to host the Granite Kid Triathlon on July 16, 2022, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. along Clark Road and at Brewster Beach.
Second.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next one. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit, Wolfeboro Parks and Rec to host the Granite Man Triathlon on August 20th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. along various state and town roads in Cary Beach.
So this is our 39th annual. We had 2 years off. We could have run it last year, but we were a little nervous with upgrading of Cary Beach, and the grass wasn't yet in. So now that's all set. I did put the only difference in from previous years, and we did put a couple of roads on there to do one-sided parking if required. So we're really going to try to fill up that grass parking area, and then the paved parking area, we might go outside the lines, just park them a little closer, and then if we have to, those two side streets, just on one side.
Okay,
And we have a police detail for this too. There's 3 officers.
I just have one question. Our application doesn't have any sign-off from Public Works. You've talked to them about the placement of the bikes down at Cary Beach?
I haven't, but I am well aware on the side, so I don't know if we're going to be doing it on the side where it goes in like that, but I will work with Dave on that just to make sure whatever we're doing is.
Okay.
We might actually put some signs up just because in previous years people just come in, so I think we might have to mark that off a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Christine, what 2 roads may the parking be on?
Is it in there? Because I can't remember the ones we.
If it is, I missed it.
Yeah, I don't. Bo was supposed to put it in there. I thought it was at the bottom on the second page. There was like extra things you could add or something.
Yeah, you said additional street parking on Sewell Road and Spruce Road.
Yeah.
Is what's on here.
All right.
We kind of surveyed the whole area, and we felt those were the widest of the roads to just put it on one side for safety. And I did talk to police or fire about it just to make sure they could get through. That's really their only concern with that.
any questions from the public? Close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to issue a temporary event permit to the Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation to host the Granite Man Triathlon on August 20th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. along various state and town roads and Cary Beach.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Next is public comment, limited to 3 minutes per person, not to exceed 15 minutes.
I have a page and a half. My name is Josephine Amatucci. I am here to redress my grievances. I am here to tell the town what is going on. The first thing I want to say is the town is continuing to allow criminals to be our police chiefs. They know that these men that come here have committed criminal acts. They know, and yet they allow them to be our police chief. Now, Stuart Chase was a criminal before he was hired as our police chief. In Danvers, where he was a police chief for only a very short period of time, before he came here, he was terminated in Danvers for imprisoning a woman because she complained to him about misconduct of one of his police officers. He was terminated in Danvers, and he came here, and they made him our police chief. As with all criminals, in a continuous conduct, Chase imprisoned me when I went inside the police department to complain about the former police officer, James O'Brien. And in retaliation for my accusing one of his men, and in a continuous conduct, Chase attacked me and said, if you ever accuse my men of misconduct, he will get me and put me in jail. On my way home, he followed me and arrested me, accusing me of speeding, and he put me in jail. Speeding is not a crime in New Hampshire. You don't go to jail. There was a trial, and I was found not guilty of speeding by the judge. Chase was properly terminated by this town. About Dean Rondeau, our new police chief. Dean Rondeau is admired for his service in our country, but priests are also respected for being ministers of God. However, when the priests become a threat to the safety of the public, they are rightly punished. Rondeau is a threat to the public, and he must be punished for his crime. Dean Rondeau is a criminal, and he will be terminated. I am here to make sure that he is terminated. Rondeau is a criminal. In a continuing conduct, he is accusing me of a crime that he knew I never committed. He will never stop. He is a threat to the public, and he must be stopped because he's a warrior like Chase. Like Chase, in a continuing conduct, Rondeau committed crimes against me, and he will never stop until he's terminated. The first time is when he contacted the Department of Safety, accusing me of erratic driving at the state park in Wolfeboro. And he demanded that I be retested, and of course, with the intention of having my license to drive revoked. Why did he do so? In retaliation, because at the time I was accusing a police officer of misconduct, and the former police chief, Stuart Chase, did not want to investigate. However, I did not have to be retested by the grace of God, because I was able to prove to the Department of Safety that I was in a bank in Massachusetts at that same time, and I was able to produce a deposit slip to prove I was in the bank at that time. According to when Rondeau was saying I was driving erratically at the state park in Wolfeboro. And also, I could be seen on the video camera in the bank with further evidence that I did not have to be retested. The second encounter with Rondeau was when he asked the Belknap Sheriff's Department to prosecute me for causing an assault with bodily injury on an employee who worked at the dump. The employee made it very clear that there was no injury to him, although the employee falsely accused me of pushing him aside to get to his supervisor because I was complaining about people who were throwing their garbage on the ground instead of inside the bin at the dump. And he said that when I pushed him, this employee falsely stated that he fell down a couple of steps at the time. Eventually, the employee's supervisor denied the employee was ever standing in the doorway, and denied he fell down the steps. The employee was terminated by the town. So now we know that that fact was false. The record shows that the Belknap Sheriff's Department found the Belknap Sheriff's Department was ordered by Dean Rondeau to prosecute me for pushing this man down the stairs, and he was accusing me of an assault with bodily injury. But that employee made it clear, and there's an affidavit, there was an affidavit before Rondeau that there was no bodily injury. Even though he said I pushed him down a couple of steps, he did say there was no bodily injury. But Rondeau ordered the Belknap Sheriff's Department to prosecute me. And there was a trial, and I was prosecuted. However, the Belknap Sheriff's Department states that they stated in an affidavit that they found no reason to prosecute me, but Rondeau ordered them to prosecute me. Therefore, I am demanding that Rondeau be put on administrative leave immediately while he is allowed a hearing in this case, as there is no way he can deny that he is not guilty of conspiring with the Belknap Sheriff's Department to maliciously prosecute me again for a crime he knew I never committed.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to us on the public comment? Okay, if not, we'll go on to the bulk vote. Bulk vote is weekly manifests, 2,477,180 and 493,997. Also, yield tax levy, Haynes Hill Road, Trotting Track, North Wakefield Road. Intent to cut timber, Pleasant Valley Road and Pleasant Valley Road. Raffle tickets, permits, Lakewood Hockey Association. Want to make a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to accept the bulk vote.
Second?
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New business. Appointment request for new town committee. Brittany Bowles.
Well, that is quite an act to follow. Thank you for having me. My name is Brittany Bowles, and I do have an idea for us all here today. You might not be familiar with me. I'm not local enough to be like a real local yet. I've been here 10 years, so I know that means I'm new. I came to Wolfeboro from the island of St. Croix 10 years ago, and I immediately got involved with philanthropic events. I worked on the Farm to Table Feast, Fort Gala, which is now the Makerspace. I started a nonprofit called RAIN, which paired Haiti with New Hampshire in terms of a lot of children were connected via art. I went into public schools in our district and the surrounding districts to speak to hundreds of kids and did a lot of clean water projects internationally. I also hosted the Rain Dance here in town a number of years in a row that combined art, music, and philanthropy, all in the inn at the Inn on Main's barn, that beautiful venue inside. I've done fire dancing in the parade. I have won first prize in the Wolfeboro 4th of July parade for my efforts with floats, and then I put on the Taste of Winnipesaukee at the Wolfeboro Inn, which was a fantastic fundraiser that invited all of the local restaurants in, and we had the first ever nano brewery beer competition. I then founded a for-profit business called Magical Yoga downtown above the Country Bookseller and hosted music and art events there, where I was invited by Sandy Martin and Kim Khaled, Jen Khaled, and all of them to come together and run the Arts Walk, but we turned it into the Wolfeboro Art Festival. You may have seen street performers, we had hoopers, people on stilts, that kind of thing. It was a beloved event. And then I moved on to tennis and yoga, and I hosted programs for kids in the park last summer. And now I have founded another version of magical yoga, doing proactive mental health for kids across the country. You might know that we're in crisis right now. It's a huge problem, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. So all of this introduction to say that I care about the social good in our town. I care about the social good in general in our country, and particularly here, where my kid is a kid with all of your kids, and we have this sort of generational opportunity to step in and create another breath of fresh air in terms of welcoming energy, in terms of cultivating a community that intentionally collaborates, intentionally spends time together, and intentionally thinks about short and long-term social profit. And so today I'm here because I called last week about some state funds that, of course, as a nonprofit founder, I was looking into for my own project. But I was shocked to learn that there really wasn't anybody or any organization specifically dedicated to keeping an eye on community projects in terms of the lens of social good. Not a council for youth, not a council or committee for social good. There's a meeting, a summit that Huggins hosts about once a year where all the nonprofit leaders come together. And I know that I have relationships with my fellow executive directors and CEOs in town. But there's an opportunity for for-profit and nonprofit leaders to come together for the good of the town, the good of the youth, the good of the sense of welcoming that got us our reputation. And we also recognize that there's a bit of discourse happening and that it can be borderline toxic sometimes. And maybe there's space to be proactively welcoming. Maybe there's space to put together a series of intentional gatherings, events. Maybe there's space in the town plan or the town budget to have a line item that says something about social good. I think that the time is now. I'm willing to personally chair the committee or the council. I will personally recruit from for-profit and nonprofit industry leaders in our town, and I will take the lead on putting together what the structure of this committee could be. I think that informing our town politics proactively with a common mission, which is really just that. The country of Bhutan is known not for their beauty, which they have plenty, not for their tradition, which they have plenty, but for their revolutionary look on what it means to be profitable. In Bhutan, they measure not only success in gross national profit, but in gross national happiness. And why wouldn't we want to be part of that? I would love to take your questions about the proposition to start the Committee for Social Good in Wolfeboro, as the subcommittee of course, all of you are wonderful selectmen.
I would like to have a discussion sometime if you'd like to reach out to me.
Yeah, okay.
It's funny because about a year ago, I told my wife I want to go to Bhutan. And a Christmas present this year was several books on traveling to Bhutan, that's just kind of unusual. But I would like to find out more about it, and I can report back to the other selectmen if they want me to.
I guess I would like a written proposal that I can read and think about how it should go together. You have wonderful ideas, but we're going to need to justify why we're going in a certain direction in your words, and a clear understanding of how you're going to do it would help me move that forward.
I would be happy to propose. I almost came with a PowerPoint tonight, and I thought, okay, let's just settle down.
Well, but I think that would be a good idea, to give us that kind of an understanding, and after reading it, then we can really start thinking about what you're asking of us.
Okay, great. So what would be the next step then? Get with both of you together? Do you want to grab lunch at Lydia's and hash it out? What's our plan?
I would like something written that would come to the full board. I'm more than willing to meet with Brian and you if that's where it is, but in the hopes of getting something that's very concrete and we can understand where we are and where you're going to take us and the structure and stuff.
Sure, yeah, I would love that. So I will.
Should she forward her PowerPoint and any literature to Amy at the town hall, and then it can be distributed to the board?
Yes, when she's at that point, but I'd like us to get some kind of a structure that may go with that PowerPoint. But definitely it would go through the town manager's office.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I'll send you an email and then
Absolutely.
put together the bullet points for that and then get it over to Amy and hopefully have a win-win conversation.
Yes, and there, you can find our emails on the town website.
Right, yeah. I'm familiar. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. I am going to bow out. My kid is at home. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, next, tax software upgrade update from the tax collector.
A less happy subject, I'm sad to say, but I'm Brenda Lapointe, tax collector. The 2022 budget contained a capital outlay request for upgrades to the property tax system. Implementation of the software and conversion of the data has already been completed, and the next steps in the process to provide online access to tax statements and electronic transfer of data to the finance department are in process. The town will be now using software provided by Avatar Associates of New England for accounting and production of property tax bills. Avatar software is designed and tailored specifically to meet the needs of New Hampshire municipalities and is the same software currently used by the assessing and codes offices for administration of their respective town functions. Due to the software change, tax statements have been revised and the electronic payment process will be slightly different. A letter to assist with understanding these changes and help guide taxpayers through the payment process will be included in with the first half bills. In your packet, I believe I sent a copy of the new design of the tax bill. Yep. The last time the tax bills were revised was 27 years ago, when the current software was implemented. The new bills will provide all the same information as required by law, but with a fresh new look. Bills will be single-sided with important information to taxpayers prominently displayed in bold type. And on the first half bills, property tax rates will reflect 1/2 of the previous year's tax rate, as is recommended by New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration. Properties under current use assessment will reflect the current use value of the land, as opposed to the actual land value minus the current use credit. Each installment will now reflect which installment, first bill or second bill, and the lot sizes will now be included on the tax bills. Tax bills will be available for viewing or download on the tax kiosk site. This site will be added to the town website and be present on both the home page and the tax collector department page. Taxpayers will no longer need to provide a username and password to obtain a copy of the bill. A simple search by name, location, or tax map lot number will provide access to both the tax bill and payment options. The invoices on the kiosk will look slightly different from the ones that are being mailed, but will contain the same basic information. Online payment of bills will be accessible through the tax kiosk. Again, no username or password will be required to access the bill and pay. Right now, the flexibility to sign up for auto pay is not activated, but we are working to have this feature available in the future. All those currently signed up for this option will be contacted via email to make sure they are aware of the change.
Also, at this time, IVR or telephone payments may not be available. I was hoping to be able to access a demo copy of the kiosk to show you, give you a bit of a demonstration tonight, but it's still being worked on, but the target date to go live with it is May 27th. Property tax bills or statements will no longer be linked to utility accounts. In the past, the same software produced utility and tax statements. But due to the software change, utility and tax invoices will be separate, and customers will no longer be able to see all accounts under one login. So to save some time and money with this process, account histories were not converted into the new software, but they'll remain accessible through the current utility billing software. And retention and storage of this data will be addressed in upcoming budget cycles. Software implementation, as we all know, is a challenge, but this conversion process has gone relatively smoothly. And in fact, I anticipate, with any luck, that a tax warrant will be available for signature as soon as next week. Yeah, I know, I'm surprised too. Are there any questions?
No, I'm sure we'll have them after we try to use it.
Actually, I think this site will provide easier access to folks where they don't have to remember a username or password. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Okay, next is budget report. Casey?
Good evening. Kathy Carpentier, Finance Director for the Town of Wolfeboro. Before you this evening is the April 2022 financial reports. As of April, we are 4 months through the year, which is about a 33% average. We're currently at 41.4% in the general fund of spending. I'm not alarmed with that because we have signed contracts. We're trending a little high on a few things. We've also made a full year of property and liability insurance payments. And we've made a few bond payments that were due in the February timeframe, so it kind of skews the average. The revenues are down because we haven't billed out taxes, which is the biggest money generator for our revenues for the town. However, water charges are at 32% and sewer residential sales are at 33%, so those are running right along where they should be. On another note, we have been approved for the bond for the 3 items, Pop Whalen, dockside upgrades, and seasonal water lines. We should be getting that money in the middle of July, so that's good news. The auditors wrapped up the field work for fiscal 21 at the end of April. They continue to close out 2021, and we hope to be back to you in July or August with the final reports, including a single audit report, which is required if we receive more than $750,000 in federal funds, which we did in 2021. So it's another piece of the audit that is not usually there. In May, we hope to pay the agencies, the budgeted agencies amount, and in June, we'll be sending over the funds to the capital reserve funds. Are there any questions at this point that I'd be happy to answer?
The only thing I have, and it's not necessarily for you, but it's the town manager, and he and I have talked. I think we need to keep a close eye on propane, diesel, and gas. Those could cause us some big problems in this, and I'm hoping that if a department has to move some funds around, that we'll get some kind of a spreadsheet on it, and I think the town manager is willing to do that.
Yeah, so we had a department head meeting yesterday. This was briefly discussed. Amy is working on preparing the RFP for the 2022-23 fuel budget. So we're actively pursuing avenues to stay within the bottom line of the budget. We do anticipate some troubles with it. We've already seen some adjustments on some contracts because of the cost of diesel. It's going to be an issue going forward.
And our follow-up to that is we do send out monthly reports to the departments on usage and gallons. And I believe the directive from the town manager was for the department heads to be watching their usage to make sure that stays close to budget, because they can control the usage, they can't control the cost. So, but very good, thank you. Are any other questions?
Any other questions from anybody?
Great.
Thanks, Casey.
Have a good night.
Next on the agenda is a request to spend capital reserve funds for wastewater treatment facility.
So I'm stepping in for Dave this evening. He's not able to make it. Two items here. One of them is basis of design for the wastewater treatment facility. If you recall, last year we submitted a grant for the wastewater treatment facility upgrades, which are upwards of $15 million. We did not score very well on that process, and one of the reasons is because we hadn't gotten to design phase yet or whatnot. So this request is to utilize $75,000 out of the capital reserve for the purpose of working with the engineers to work on a design report for the facility so that we continue to move forward and prepare ourselves for hopefully more grant funding to come in the future. Just so you're aware, when we did appropriate $175,000 this year, once that is placed into the account will have a balance of $394,000.
Any questions? Okay, we need probably a motion to spend the capital reserve funds, wastewater treatment facility.
I'll move to authorize the Board of Selectmen to expend an amount not to exceed $75,000 for the wastewater treatment plant facility, a capital reserve fund for HRD to prepare a base of design report, and I move to authorize the Board of Selectmen to expend an amount not to exceed $50,000 for the wastewater treatment plant or facility capital reserve for continued work on the Sledge Hall Road.
Second.
Any questions from anybody? All those in favor?
Aye. And I'll just tie that Sledge Road. That is a road where we have 18-wheelers coming in to pick up product. It is problematic for them to access. Additionally, for emergency response, it's beneficial because they'll be uphill of a potential incident. So this is good usage of those funds for that road.
Okay, next we have approval to naming of a driveway for E911.
Yeah, so you have a memo from the town planner requesting to consider renaming a roadway in town. They've given you three options. The fire chief has reviewed it with 911 and sees no issues, and it seems to be in line with a best practice of having this road named. So it's your discretion if you have a preference of the three names or want to go with the preference of the property owners.
Looks to me like they made up their minds. So. What do you want to do, Board?
I'm okay with their first name. It means truth, is what that word means. So it's the same as Truth Way. It's a nice name, and I see no reason why they shouldn't be able to have their first choice.
I agree.
You want to make that a motion then?
So be it.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? So it'll be named Althea Way. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Heritage Commission Subcommittee, discussion. Anybody have
Yeah,
the reasoning for that?
Yeah,
Right here?
Yeah, I did. As I recall, when Maggie Steer came to the last Board of Selectmen's meeting, gave us a report, gave us this wonderful report, and asked us to form a subcommittee. And I went back over and reviewed the report, and on page 21, they were talking about next steps, and they said, we recommend that a all call go out to the town so that anyone interested can come together for a general review of the recommendations and then a discussion about what's next. So in order to form this committee, I would like to put an ad in the paper and get as many people who would like to be part of the conversation, because it fits in with the report itself. And that's what I think she was asking me, unless somebody else has a different understanding of what was being asked.
That's something we can do, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Next one is a discussion of bike trails on Abenaki property. Plan to move forward. Do we have anything on that tonight?
Do you want me, I've got,
You got something?
yeah, I did.
You and Brian?
What I did is I asked Amy, and I think it's in our notes, I think it's time for the board to decide how it wants to address the bike trails that have been built on the spray fields. And I have at least 4 options. One is to dismantle the Abenaki trails and Sprayfield trails and not approve them. Develop a pilot using the full 2021 trails on Abenaki recreational land in the Sprayfields by entering into a construction agreement with Wolfeboro Single Track to finish building the climb trail and the flow trail, and they may need to be moved a bit due to the spray field. Also enter into a license agreement with Wolfeboro Single Track to manage and maintain the trail. Then after that has taken place, we give an opportunity for us to look at how it went, whether we have any more road building, and then decide whether we want to put a warrant article out in 2023 or hold a public hearing. And we may want to hold a public hearing even before we do the pilot. Enter into agreement with Wolfeboro Single Track and let them build the trails that they presented to us in their presentation. 4 is to put all of this information out in a 2023 warrant article. And this would not address the trails that were hand-built between 2019 and 2021. So I think we owe them, and we need to kind of decide where we want to go with this. So I just kind of threw those 4 options out there for the board to discuss.
Yeah, my opinion is I believe that we should do number 4. I think that it should go to the voters because this is going to be a substantial project. It's going to be expensive to start with. It could be expensive to maintain when the Single Track, or if the Single Track Alliance goes on their way and decides that they're going to build trails in Tuftonboro, trails in Moultonboro, somewhere else. They have a new focus area. This happens all the time. The snowmobile trails change all the time. People move in and trails are shut down and opened up. I equate this project a lot to the Libby Museum. It's the same kind of thing where the Board of Selectmen took on a project that ended up being something that they now own for life, that costs money, that costs taxpayers money, that we have to work on and maintain. This could end up being the same thing. So I believe that the citizens of Wolfeboro should have a right to decide if they want to have an asset to that extent in their town, and then with the idea that number 2 happens very quickly after, that we finish it with a pilot program and then go forward with trails in the proper way, where they come to us first with a map, with a proposal, with a contract. And I would like to also see any trails on town property built as nicely as down at Fernald and the conservation property, but cleaned up better when they're done. They should leave the land as they arrived and not have rocks and stumps and brush and debris and everything on the sides of the trails for years and years and years to come.
So what do you,
I'm just going down, all of us should weigh in on how we want to handle it. Luke, where do you want to go with it?
I'll probably abstain from the vote, but I'm just in the commentary in what I'm thinking from being at all the meetings. I'd like to see it go to the voters. It is a big decision, and if the voters want to approve this and allow the use of those trails going forward, we should get it up to the voters. In my opinion.
I'd like to see more information on costs and, actual maps where everything is. Because I agree kind of with Brian and Luke that it's going to be expensive, from what I can see, having listened to the Conservation Commission and some of the trails that they've done over in the Fernald area. It's not inexpensive to do.
The building of the trails they have money for. I don't understand. They are not coming and asking us for money in the building. I think where Brian is going with that, once they're there, they're ours.
Right.
And then we have to maintain them. And that's why I was talking about an agreement with them. But he's right. After 10 years, they might not be here. So that's what you're concerned about.
Yeah, they built some beautiful bridges down in Fernald. We walked over them as we were finding our way and losing our way.
Yes, we did.
And they're beautiful bridges, but they're all exposed wood. They're not going to last forever, and they're going to have to be rebuilt. And some of those bridges, that big one, the Trestle Bridge we go across, beautiful, but it's going to be expensive to rebuild that someday.
Brad?
I think it needs to, I agree, I think it needs to eventually get on a warrant article to the voters for this whole thing there. But before it goes there, I'm really leaning toward, I think a pilot program would be beneficial, to lay out exactly where the climb and the flow trail need to be relocated, where they come in tight or even onto the spray fields, to make sure those are off the areas that we need it to be off of, and get a feel for how they're going to hold up and everything before we even bring it to the voters, because then we're going to have a better feel for what it's going to take to keep these maintained.
I agree with Dave that we need to see more of the total cost of everything going forward, so we know how much we own. Are we going to own $250,000? Are we going to own $500,000 of trails? What are we going to own?
I think in the proposal, they gave us some cost figures going forward through. So if you bring out that proposal, we do have the cost figures. I have no problem putting it out for a vote in 2023. If that is the consensus of the board. I'm kind of with you, Brad. I kind of would like to have a pilot to have something to go on, but I don't feel that strong. If that is the case, then this board needs to decide how they're going to block those trails off that are there. They're incomplete, if we're not talking about using them until 2023, I think we have a responsibility.
If I could, Linda, they have reached out to me as late as this afternoon wanting to know if they could work on the trails. They are very excited to be working on the trails. I think one of the takeaways I agree with is they've got to make those corrective measures on that climb trail, on the flow trail in the area of the wetlands. But from my perspective, a pilot is going to be helpful for, I think, myself and the group going forward, so that we can hash out what's working, what's not working, so that if the voters do approve it next year, we've already got a template of language.
Yeah.
So I guess we're kind of, here's another possibility, is we hold a public hearing to find out whether the public wants to go for a pilot. But when we do the pilot, they're going to put a fair amount of money into the trails, and so that kind of leaves it.
Yeah, unfortunately, once the pilot is in place, the gates open and there's no going back. You've put the pilot, the most expensive trail they're going to build in this town is that flow trail. And once it's complete and they've spent $250,000 on it, there's no turning back.
Okay, right now,
Then what are you going to do? You're going to go to a vote and have people vote on what? To close it down once they've spent all the extra money and fixed it? I think the people should know what they're going to have and vote on it before all the money is spent and we become potentially responsible for it going down the road.
based on their presentation, the climb trail, they spent $24,388, with $6,000 to $10,000 remaining to finish that path. The flow trail, to date, they spent $59,240, and the remaining amount is $60,000 to $130,000 to complete the path.
That's a big range, 60 to 130,000.
But that's what they're telling us. So that's what we're talking about when we say, okay, and then we say no. I think that's the issue that you're bringing up. So I don't know exactly.
If they spend another $150,000 on trails because we do a pilot program for a $200,000 trail, we might as well just let them go.
I believe the way we walked it, that, that flow trail is set up so that they can operate right now.
Correct.
And be able to go out onto the Abenaki property without completing that extra trails that were mapped out through the woods, and I think that's that.
Can they go get?
Talking about.
That was my
I
next.
can get them up and go the flow. I didn't think they could get back down if it's a one-way. There was a down all the way completed?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because where we made that transition, that 90-degree turn, we were able to continue to walk right down to the base of the ski area, whereas their proposed trail was to go
through the
back
back.
out across the brook and then come back across the brook again. And there was significant amount of work that had to be completed to finish the trail as they vision it. I think they can probably ride it now as the way it lies without that additional work. That's just my opinion.
No, you took the words right out of my mouth, Jim. That's exactly what I was going to say. If they're going to do something with the climb trail, they have to make sure that they stay away from the spray fields just for safety purposes. The trails can be used. We don't necessarily have to close them down, and that could work as a quasi-pilot program. Let's let them use them, see what they have, and if they need to, just maintain the paths that they have now, just maintain, but not build another $200,000 or $150,000 worth of trails unless that's what people in town want.
And I definitely want a maintenance agreement for the amount of time, the year, and I also want either a license agreement or some document that states very specifically what added work they can do. Either there are some that they hadn't finished up, the need to get rid of all the environmental issues, stabilizing the banks that we talked about, and so what I hear now, and see if we could do a pilot with just what is there, with just kind of making it clean out a few places that need to be straightened out. We'll call that a pilot. We'll get all our documents and license for that, and then we'll use that as a pilot. That pilot will provide us the documentation for a warrant article in 2023.
What a great compromise.
Should we still do a public hearing, though?
Well, we could do we do a public hearing, get all the documents, do a public hearing, and then okay it, and then go to a warrant article. Does that
Can we
make
have a
sense?
contract for the maintenance that they need to do right now that is very specific to what they're going to do to fix things and make the trail look as natural as possible? I would like them to clean up some of the piles of rocks and some of the debris around it, and I want to see what when they do the next $150,000, I want to see what the final product is going to look like by what they have now.
I think that will go in the license agreement in terms of what they have to do to the trails before they can use them. I think that's
Like a scope of work.
Yeah,
Yep.
scope of work that needs to be done before that. So I guess the next thing is that they should not be doing any work on the trails. You will get that license agreement together and the maintenance contract, and as soon as you think you can get that done, then we should hold a public hearing.
Jim, I don't know if it helps or if it doesn't, but on the shakedown cruise on the Mount Washington, I happened to be talking to a gentleman who specializes in legal matters and writing legal documents for outside activities, including ski trails, cross-country trails, bike trails. This is what he does for a living. And I did grab his business card. I don't know if it would be advantageous for you to talk to him, because this is what he does.
I'll take that card. I can say that there are some other agreements that I've seen from other communities. I reached out on the town managers forum. They provided me with some of those documents. So I already have a folder with a lot of this stuff put together. It's just a matter of modifying it to reflect what is going on in Abenaki.
Yep.
So I would say hopefully that I would be actually ready for the next Board of Selectmen's meeting. I'll reach out to the group tomorrow and see if we can get this moving.
Okay, everybody happy with that?
Yeah, do you want a motion, or are you okay with the consent?
I would like a motion, just because you guys are the ones in charge of the land.
Okay, I'll move that the Board of Selectmen develop a license agreement and a management agreement with the Wolfeboro single track to address the already built trails at Abenaki and by the spray fields, and that until these documents are done, there should be no work, and we will hold a public hearing before approving any pilot. Did I get everything?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Pop Whalen construction update.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through a quick slide show presentation. If you can put that up on the screen, please. The project is going well. Construction meeting tomorrow. A couple things that I'd like to go over with the board. If we can put the screen up. So one of the items that I'd like to discuss with the board is we have got a community water source at this location. The community water source, they're very specific with where the well can be located. And there's really only one location on the property where it can be located. That's going to require us to remove some trees, and it's going to require moving of some earth. We have reached out to Norway Plains. There is no concern about this. Additionally, we also have a problem with power lines which are going over the pump house, which is not really supposed to be happening. So apparently we're having some issues with getting this on the screen. Yep. It would be under the Board of Selectmen chair. BoS chair. Well, I'll go. Okay. So the board has this in front of them, and you can see the location of the proposed well. They're going to have to do some tree removal. They're going to have to do some removal of that earthen berm to be able to drill the well. What we've talked about with the construction management firm, with Barry from MED, we would like to relocate one of the utility poles into the parking lot, the gravel parking lot, which will give a straighter shot across the main parking lot for the overhead power. we'd also like to consider, have the Board of Selectmen consider removing the entirety of that earthen berm and the trees. It's approximately $27,000 to do that. And those trees right now are actually kind of a hazard anyways, and the area doesn't look very good. So we're asking the board if they would entertain allowing us to utilize $27,000 of the contingency of this budget, which we're on track with right now, to remove these trees, this earthen berm, which will streamline the electric, the communications lines, and it'll also make for the water line from the well to be a straight line across the parking lot.
Jim, when we remove that, will that give us any added parking spaces in that gravel parking lot?
The way it's designed right now, it will not.
Okay.
But it could be, in the future, I believe, considered to be parking lot if we so needed.
I just have been down there at a hockey game while there's a ski race, and there's not enough parking to handle the two venues having a race at the same time. So we need to work on scheduling, but I find that parking lot full, and we may want to add some parking spaces, so I would like that at least looked at. I have no problem taking down the berm.
We can
it's
do
not
that.
very pleasant.
That's actually not a problem.
Nothing pretty there.
So, I mean, if the board is good with that, I'll work with them to look at being able to transition that into some parking or a grassed area, one or the other.
That's it.
Do you want a motion to add
Yeah,
that?
if you could give me a motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the project of taking down the dirt berm at the Pop Whalen Arena, and to look at either adding a picnic area or parking spaces for $27,000, did you say, Jim? 20,000, 27,000.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Libby Museum discussion.
So I'd like to ask the board to be able to table this
Yeah.
at this point, based on our meeting last week with the Attorney General's office.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, next is any other business? Okay, next, committee reports. Brian?
So there was a great event at the library. It was Saving Energy and Money, Heating and Cooling Your Home by Wes Golem, and it was put on by the Energy Commission, and it had a very good, nice turnout. There was 20, 25 people that showed up to find out how to build a better home, how to retrofit, how to add simple improvements to your house to save energy. So that was very, very nice. We're also working on 2 signs for the EV chargers and getting the EV chargers commissioned by Memorial Day. That's our goal. We've already had people trying to charge 2 chargers, and they've had to be bagged over and tied up so that nobody will actually use them. We had a nice EDC meeting, and the EDC, I was happy because they started looking at sharpening their focus on what they want to do going forward and what their objectives are, and taking reports from the past and looking at how many of those previous goals that they have had that they've met. They also proposed to get involved in an event that I'll be discussing in a future meeting going down the road.
Luke?
I don't have anything to report from last week.
Linda?
Yeah, I attended on Saturday the 4th Water Summit presented by the Wolfeboro Waters Association. The town's Wolfeboro Waters Committee was one of the sponsors of the summit. The topic this year was around the use of salt on roads and how to maintain dirt roads. The main takeaway from the summit was everyone will benefit from the use of less salt. Salt is an element that does not go away. It travels down to our streams, rivers, ponds, lakes. There is right now a Smart Pro certificate for people who are plowing, and they are planning in the future to have a municipal Snow Pro certificate course, which would be a good idea for our Public Works Department to go to to figure out how to still use salt but not as much. And if anybody would like to watch the Water Summit, it is on community television. There's a link to it. I attended the Wolfeboro Public Library monthly meeting, and I'm glad to say that the children's programs are filling up again. I attended the Chamber of Commerce monthly executive board meeting. The next Chamber of Commerce quarterly membership meeting is 7:30 Thursday morning, June 9th at Brewster Academy. All business owners, employees of the area businesses who are not yet members of the Chamber of Commerce are invited to participate in the meeting. I attended the Wolfeboro Waters Assessing Subcommittee meeting, and we're working on the water testing plan for 2022. I attended my second planning board meeting as an alternate. I also attended the EDC meeting with Brian. I attend weekly meetings of the Friends of Pop Whalen. And I want to put a plug out for this weekend, the 46th Smith River Canoe Race, Canoe and Kayak Race will take place at Albee Beach at 1:15. You'll go across Wentworth to Crescent Lake, down the rapids in Smith River, cross Back Bay, and finish at the town docks. It's a great event. Town usually fills up. Come on out and enjoy a lovely day and enjoy the race.
Okay, I had no meetings. Brad?
Yeah, so last night we had a planning board meeting. There's no public hearings with it. It was a work session. This morning we had a Wolfeboro Community TV meeting. So that was it.
Jim?
A couple items. Parks and Recreation, their temporary office is in place at the Fossfield Pavilion. Beach passes are available at the Fossfield Pavilion, and the painting is already getting ready to happen at the Fossfield Pavilion as well. We had to relocate it. There was a tree down there, and there was question whether or not we could relocate it or cut it down. We've relocated it to the Glendon Street parking lot, monitoring it, but it looks like it is taking well at this point, so hopefully there's no issues there. Dock ordinance, we've got the signage ordered for that. Amy has received the first check from a barge company, which is actually being tracked in a standalone revenue account, so we'll in the future know the revenues associated with that. And Amy's working on a permit decal for the barges. And one other thing Amy wanted me to discuss with the board, they're preparing their flyer for the 4th of July activities, and she was wondering, there was some discussion previously about limiting the parking lot to at the town hall for those who may be mobility impaired. Just wanted to bring that back to the board for a little bit of discussion and thought process so they can get the flyers going. She thought that we could probably find a couple volunteers to man the entry of the parking lot. And what's the board's pleasure?
I thought we decided on it, so I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Is there a second?
Right.
I second it.
Oh. That ear's not working. All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. And the last thing I'd just like to say is this evening we have our director of the Libby Museum with us, Lena Henrich. Lena, I don't know if you want to say anything or not, but welcome, and that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions from the press? Hearing none.
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Any public input? Okay. Someone want to make a motion to go into non-public, please?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, going into non-public.